Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, the volume is great.
Okay.
Mhm. All right, just a few more seconds. Sorry, like takes a little bit to connect. Okay, that's all good. I'm gonna hit record and then we'll get started. All right, welcome to Life's Not Linear. My name is Tara, and today I get to interview Renee on her very interesting journey, and I'm super excited to dive in. So, Renee, could you please give us a little bit of introduction and kind of your background and timeline?
Sure. My name's Rene Sollod. I currently work for Verizon Business. I'm a program manager we call it in our global business marketing organization. And my journey, it's interesting because mine has, it's definitely not linear, my journey. So I'll start back, you know, in college, I was very altruistic. My major was psychology and health education. I thought I wanted to do something, something to help people. So when I was in college, I took that all the curriculum. I did my internships. I did one at the Mental Health Association in Baltimore City. I did another internship with Baltimore County Juvenile Justice, where I did arbitration for youth who did misdemeanor crimes. While I was in college, it just so happened that I had a roommate who had a part-time job at Citibank, bank cards. They had an office that was directly across the street from my college. And so I was able to get a job there too, one Christmas holiday. And it was on the phone. I was like a customer service rep on the phone. And it worked well because I could work during whatever hours I wanted. Anyway, so when I graduated from college with my degrees in psychology and health education, I wanted to, again, do something to help people. I got a job at a very small nonprofit agency called the Maryland Committee for Children. And basically what my job was is we had a hotline where people could call, whether it was a parent, a guardian, or someone that was responsible for children looking for licensed daycare providers or centers. So I had a county and I just worked with people to help them find the resources. But at the same time, because the pay was so low, I continued working at Citibank, and I continued to get, I eventually got hired full time, and then I moved into different positions. And then I decided I really liked that corporate environment and what I was doing. I really enjoyed that bank card environment. And I was making good friends and learning a lot and making more money. So I eventually decided I was just going to take a full-time job with Citibank. And there my corporate career began. So I worked at Citibank for 13 years in their bank card division. I had a series of jobs. I got promoted many times. My last role, I was an assistant vice president of their, I call it their direct response team. So most people have probably received one or two credit card solicitations in their time. And so that's what we did. We did we did all the implementation of those credit card solicitations. So I guess in the early 90s, and now I'm aging myself, the telecom industry really took off. And there was a lot of synergies between the two industries. And I had a colleague who left Citibank and went to work for MCI, who no longer is a telecom company. They were bought many, many years ago, and now part of Verizon, the legacy MCI. Anyway, I took that opportunity to sort of pivot my career to do more focused marketing. I was working in a group that we did direct mail response but it wasn't core marketing, and I really wanted to do that. And I wasn't getting the opportunity at Citibank. So through networking and meeting people, through my friend who had left to go work for MCI, I met someone who one day just out of the blue said, I need a product manager in our calling card division. And with your bank card background, I think you'd be a good fit. So there we went. So then I moved from one industry to the next into a role that I really did not have a lot of experience in, but I did have a lot of experience in project management and, that I could leverage. So I think that's an important lesson for college students is that, your best laid plans, unless you're going to medical school or you're in a nursing program, sometimes, when you have more of a generalist degree, you find that you pivot, midstream in your career path. Anyway, so my career started in the early 90s in telecom. I moved around a lot. I moved into some different telecom companies. I started out doing consumer marketing. Then I had the opportunity to go do some, they call it B2B or business marketing for another company. And then I had an opportunity to go do international product development and marketing. So, international was something that was really exciting and enticing to me. I had the opportunity to work with a lot of our sales reps in different countries and different telecom providers in different countries. So it was a huge learning experience and growth for me. But along the way, most of my moves were linear, were vertical. So I wasn't moving up the corporate ladder, but what I was doing, I was taking vertical moves to learn more and expand the breadth of my experience. And it made me more valuable. So after, after working in the international telecom position, I think that was in early 2000, I was recruited to go work at a wireless trade association. And if you remember, my love going into college was really being altruistic and really doing something that was for the good. And so I thought, I want to work for a nonprofit. Even though it's a big nonprofit, I'd like to work in a nonprofit. So I went to work for them. I did product development and marketing strategy. And what happened was that, as a nonprofit organization, the majority of our revenue came from membership and our trade show, annual trade show. So that year, our annual trade show opened up in Los Angeles on 9/11. And so needless to say that when the towers were hit and the Pentagon was hit on the East Coast, and we saw that on the West Coast, the decision was made to shut down our trade show. And the ripple effect was basically they lost a lot of money that year, and I got laid off. So right after 9/11, I got laid off from a very high level marketing job. And it was kind of impossible to find marketing jobs anywhere. No one was really hiring. No one was spending money. People were spending money on sales because they needed to make money. And, even though I resigned that, I would take any job. I could take a lower level job. I was a senior director at the time. I would take a manager level job. People didn't want to hire me because they were like, well, as soon as the market turns around, you're going to leave. And so it was a catch-22. So I was willing to go in and take a step back, but I couldn't get the opportunity. So I had to decide what I was going to do with my life. And I had a friend who was working in telecom still at a company that I had left. And she said, I'm really interested in real estate. Let's take the course. And I'm like, okay, what the heck? So we took in where I live, we took the 60 hours course to be eligible to take the real estate exam, state exam. And then at the end of that, I did take the exam and passed. And I decided, you know what? I have so much experience, varied experience. I do have some sales experience, lots of marketing experience, lots of project management experience. I'm going to go do real estate. So I got my real estate license and I totally pivoted. And I jumped in. Really direct sales is what real estate is. TV makes it look glamorous, but it's really direct sales. And I went and started working with a company And, it was, I will say, the height of the market. So it was pretty easy to start new and to start building a client base and sell real estate. So I did well. And I was enjoying it. I really kind of liked that entrepreneurial feeling. Still was stressful to go from having a paycheck and benefits to having to be self-employed. But I liked it. And then the dot-com bubble burst, and it started affecting the economy pretty significantly. And I decided, I don't want to be here in real estate if the real estate industry tanks. I don't want to be here at the bottom. And so I reached out to one of my old colleagues that was at another telecom company, and I asked her to give me a reference because I wanted to go do some marketing consulting. And at the time, there were companies out there, McKinsey, and there were some others that did, they called it interim marketing placement. So they would take a marketing person and they would put them in basically a high paid temp in a company. And so that's what my intent was to go work for one of these companies and get placed in a consulting gig, just to make extra money while I continue to sell real estate. Well, this person, when I went to talk to her, she's like, well, wait a second, I have a project management position, an IT project management position, and I think you'd be great for it. And I was like, I know nothing about IT. I mean, my background's in marketing. And she's like, oh, forget that. She goes, you can do it. We all came from marketing. So I'm like, okay. I said, but I still really like real estate. I want to continue. She's like, you're a consultant. You can do it. So I did. I jumped in, to a company called Exo Communications. I started learning the IT side of the business, which really, from a marketing perspective, when you're doing product development or any kind of campaigns that need IT development, software development, you basically think you're giving these big explicit instructions and requirements of what you want, and then you throw it over the wall into a black hole where IT does their stuff and then pops it out so that you can launch it or execute something. So it gave me that appreciation, being on the other side of the curtain, of how things worked end to end when you're doing product development. And I really liked it, loved it, to the point where I decided I really like this career path. After consulting for 6 months, I got hired full time, kept my real estate license, took it down a notch as far as what I was doing. And I liked project management so much, I went and I got certified. And I went and got my PMI, Project Management Institute, PMP. And at Exo Communications, my role evolved. I started getting bigger and more strategic initiatives. Our role evolved from being just IT project managers to enterprise project managers, so doing more things that were across the company, to doing really strategic program management. So after 11 years at Exo doing project and program management, they were bought by Verizon. So 3 years ago, Verizon bought Exo Communications, and I became a Verizon employee. And I wasn't really that keen on going to a big company because Verizon has almost 150,000 employees worldwide. And I thought, oh, this is going to be really bad. But I went over, and what they did is they took all the employees and they kind of mapped us to different departments that had roles like ours. And I was very lucky that when I moved to Verizon, I moved into a very good group. We did program management for large businesses. And I had a great boss and a great team, and I loved it. And then I started realizing how much I like Verizon. They're very employee focused. They have a lot of good training. There's a lot of good opportunities. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stay. I like this. And then about a year in, my old boss from Exo Communications called me up one day and she said, hey, how you doing? What are you doing? She's like, you want to make a change? Do you want to come work for me? So she was in a different business unit within the company. And I'm like, sure, let me talk to you about it. And it was a program management position. It had broader scope, more visibility. I got to go work with a lot of my old colleagues. So that was attractive. And so I did. And so here I am. I'm still working for the same manager I've been working for about 10 years. All my moves, again, have been lateral. But with each move, I've been learning more things, gotten more responsibility. And now I'm in a pretty senior level program management level or role in Verizon Business. And I love my colleagues. I love what I do. So when you look at my journey, it's been a total 180. I mean, I started out thinking I was going to go into maybe health education, working in public health, working for a nonprofit, to making a leap into the corporate environment, and then deciding to stay there with a detour into real estate, being self-employed because it was a necessity that I find income during a downturn in the economy. And then I went back into the corporate world, into telecom, and here I am, where I plan to stay, for the duration. So it's been a wild ride. I look at my career as a stepping stone. I really encourage any college student that's going out into the market, don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to try something that maybe you think your major was not about, because it really can evolve into something really, really interesting. So that's me.
Wow, thank you so much for kind of sharing that, like your journey and your pathway. That is a lot of different moves. And I'm wondering, like, and you mentioned after 9/11, when nobody was hiring, you had to pivot into real estate. Um, how was that, like, mentally for you to have to be like, oh crap, like nobody's hiring? Like, how do you not panic when you have to be self-sustaining? How do you
It
get
was a little bit of a panic. I mean, I did all the right things when I lost my job. I reached out to everybody I knew. I reached out to recruiters. I updated my resume. I utilized the resources that my company gave me, which is an outplacement. And I went to network events, and just nothing was happening. And I finally decided that, at this point in my career, I have a lot of experience that I can leverage. And I've done it before. I went, from the bank card industry, and I jumped right into the telecom industry with that background, not knowing the industry. And besides that, I was able to jump from consumer marketing to business marketing to international, just leveraging my experience. You have to have the confidence that, as you work and the more experience that you gain wherever you are, even if it's a part-time job in the summer or on a winter break, it's all adding to your bank of experience that you can offer to an employer later in life. And I would say don't discount your volunteer experience or any of those clubs that you were in when you were in college. But real estate, the scary part was that it was all commission based. So when I went into it, I had to spend a lot of time taking courses and then trying to put in the processes and procedures in place to try to build business. And so it took a long time before I got my first commission check. So you just have to, I had to be careful. But what kept me sane is that I liked it. I liked the industry. I liked what I was learning. And it was fascinating to me. And so that kept me grounded.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me. I think that's super important to note how you said that it was stressful, but you liked it, or not the stress maybe so much, but you liked
Yeah.
the position. So it was, it kind of fueled you to keep going.
Yeah.
Um, wow. So looking back on all your different experiences and your pivots and like kind of the things that you've been through, what is advice that you would give to students as they're kind of sitting in this pandemic recession, maybe needing to pivot as well?
I think that, this is a very difficult time for a lot of college students that are out in the workplace. I think I think one of the important thing is stay connected, continue to network, whether it's on Zoom, whether you just call people, whether you have like outdoor, meetups with masks and being safe, but continue to network. Do not discount talking to a recruiter and just touching base with them. There is a couple recruiters that I've talked to over the years when I've thought I needed to make a move. And I reach out to them every once in a while just to touch base. Like I'll reach out to them this week and I'll just send them on LinkedIn a happy holidays because I want them to remember me when the time comes that I need them. I will say, take any job that you can because you never know. There's people that have started working at McDonald's, slinging burgers or being at the cash register and have evolved into the corporate side of it, and now are in executive roles. And I think that's very important because just because you might be in a entry-level position or something, like it's not my background at all, but you can evolve into with hard work and some tenacity into other positions if you're willing to just take a chance. And the other thing is, don't discount things that you can do in your communities, whether it's volunteering or trying to create your own source of income. This summer, I can't tell you how many kids in my neighborhood were seeking work. I tried to hire as many as I could, like kids home from college, kids trying to make money for college, just doing odd jobs around my yard and things. And I will tell you one story about when I was in the real estate business. We received in my office a flyer from a high school student. She was a high school senior, or maybe she was a junior, and she was just looking for realtors who wanted an assistant, anybody to help them with anything. So I remember two other realtors and I decided we were going to hire this young woman, Adrienne, to help us. And she was awesome because she came in and she managed our database and our marketing mailings for us. She helped us get ready for open houses. So while she couldn't do an open house for us because she wasn't a licensed realtor, she could help us with all the prep work. So we were, getting that support. She was getting that business experience that she took with her to college. And, it was like a win-win situation. So.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. That's so cool that she reached out to you guys and she was able to, like you said, maybe she couldn't run the open house, but she gets to see everything that you guys are doing. That's a really great experience to have in high school. Such a great idea.
Yeah, so I just think, there are a lot of people like me, especially working at home, that would relish some type of support. And, use all the knowledge you have. And I think college kids and high school kids nowadays, they're much more tech savvy than I am, or a lot of us are in my generation. And using that to help, even if it's on a part-time basis while you're looking for jobs, is extra money. It's experience in your experience bank that you can use. And all of it adds up. Believe me, all that experience, because one day you reach out and you said, you know what, I did that at once upon a time, even if it was for a month. You don't need to tell anybody that it was for a month, but you have that experience and you can leverage it.
I really love that you say that because I'm kind of going through something similar where I studied one thing, but I'm working on one thing. And so in my head, I'm like, what are you doing? These things don't match, but it's like, it's all adding to the experience bank.
It is. And the one thing I know with, so after all this year, all this time in my life, where I am now at Verizon, so my love is helping people. And I kind of always had this want to work for an association or do good. So now my company, one of our core missions is to do volunteer work. We have a goal, for a bajillion hours by 2025. And it's highly encouraged. We have a whole volunteer portal where you can go in and pick different activities that you can do on your own when you have time, things that meet your interest, and we calculate our hours. And sometimes we have some fun competitions with other teams in the organization. But like that, being able to do that, that satisfies that altruistic, that altruism in me. So while I'm working in a corporate environment, I still am able to do things that are meaningful to me.
Thank you again for sharing that. I think that's also super important because I think when people think of corporate, they don't always realize that there's a lot of like philanthropy and
Yeah.
social responsibility. So,
Yeah.
Renee, thank you so much for sharing your background today and
Welcome.
your advice. I think it'll be really great for high school and college students to hear, especially about the pivots and the experience bank and just continuing to build. And then the story about Adrian. I like gained a lot today, so I really appreciate your time.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I appreciate you letting me come and talk. And it was a pleasure.